Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Alison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide.
Happy Monday, preschool peeps.
Hi, peeps.
We're still with this weird title thing that we've been doing, but I think that the title
I like it.
You like it? Kind of tells us what we're going to be talking about, how to do holidays. You know, we've released episodes before that focus on things like not forcing children to do that holiday pageant or show, being maybe a little more culturally aware. We've done those sorts of episodes, but we continue to get messages and contact forms and emails from our preschool peeps saying, can you talk more about what could be done on holidays? I still continuously hear stories of early childhood settings who are doing things that is questionable. They're questionable for holidays. So let's talk about a different perspective on looking at holidays, a perspective different than shows, crafts, and outfits that might be offensive to other cultures. With Thanksgiving coming in the United States, I feel like we can't avoid the topic of things like, please not the hats and the headdresses.
The hats. Please stop with the hats.
And the headdresses and
the headdresses.
And please not just, the December holidays are coming, but please not just the big old fuss about Christmas and maybe Hanukkah, but not other cultures' holidays. So
there's so many holidays. Yeah.
There's
so many holidays in December and November.
Yeah.
And you're not, and you don't
January.
know January. Yeah. You don't know what your children celebrate. So if you're not going to do all of them, then why are we so focused on one or two?
And I'm going to tell you what, I feel like just one little thing about this, and then we'll get on to the main crux of this episode. I feel like even if, let's say, the children in your class don't celebrate a particular holiday, that doesn't mean we shouldn't acknowledge that it's on the calendar, because they may encounter someone in their lives who do celebrate that holiday.
I agree with that. Yep.
And, it's not like I'm attacking Hanukkah or Christmas. I'm not attacking those. I'm not attacking federal holidays. I'm just saying we need to be aware of the sort of world that we're living in and the world that these children are growing up in, which is a very interconnected world where they're going to meet many different types of people. I come from a generation where you had neighborhoods. You lived in your culture's neighborhood when I was very young.
Yeah.
This is a very, very different interconnected world because of the internet and all. So let's go to a perspective on something you could do and be culturally sensitive, and sensitive to the fact that I know I was taught many things that were exaggerated, false, not quite the real story of holidays.
Yes, that is 100% true. And I also feel like if you're going to start teaching children about other cultures' holidays, you might not know all that goes into that holiday either.
But even the holidays of your own country, let's face it.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Some of the things we were taught might not be historically accurate, let's just say.
Agreed, because it's true.
And
it's
still there's information out in the world that doesn't give you the full picture of what life was like. So again, let's go to how do we do it? And I'm going to propose this, preschool peeps. I'm going to propose that instead of focusing on the details of a holiday that you either might not know or been taught incorrectly or may not realize is culturally insensitive, because I don't think people intend to be hurtful about holidays. I think they don't think about it.
Yeah.
They don't know. So instead of doing all that, what if we were, when a holiday is rolling around or a season is rolling around on the calendar, what if we were to focus on the moral intent of celebrations and what we acknowledge instead of details like headdresses that we shouldn't be wearing and hats that we shouldn't be wearing, and talking about holidays, that cultural holidays that are not your culture, and so you don't really know. And instead of, I also, sometimes people will say, and I have college students write this all the time, when they write things about ethics in early childhood and the celebration of holidays. And I have students who do that. And so sometimes my students will write, well, I'm going to invite families in to talk about their holidays, which is wonderful and lovely, and have your multicultural events. That is an event. That is a moment in time, not an overall ongoing lesson. So I think there should be overall ongoing lessons in addition to, let's have families talk about their traditions, which, by the way, can be different from family to family, because we know that, let's say, two families celebrating a holiday like Christmas, they don't celebrate it the same way. So one family coming in and saying, here's how we do Christmas or Hanukkah or Diwali or whatever it is they're celebrating. One family coming in and talking about it does not represent an entire culture.
Right.
It's
Because
nice and do it.
It's nice, but do it. But at the same time,
it's not representing an entire culture.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if we're going to represent what holidays and cultures and all of that is supposed to be teaching us, I think we need to focus on an overall lesson. For example, instead of reenacting a first Thanksgiving, which is entirely not what happened, folks, instead of reenacting it or making up some fable, can we just please focus on the importance of thankfulness and gratitude for a month? And we can have children do things that expresses their thankfulness for the things that they experience or have, their gratitude to families, right?
Yeah, and teaching them what that means, because they don't necessarily know what it means to be thankful or grateful for something, So like, replace this first Thanksgiving, which honestly has no meaning to these little people at all, but what does have meaning is being thankful and grateful for the things that they have in their life and what that means.
And you can mention, Thanksgiving is coming. And so we're going to do
I'm not
things
saying
about
don't
being
mention
thankful. I'm not saying don't mention the holiday. Please mention the holiday.
Yeah.
But that's very different than reenacting a dinner that didn't really take place that way. When I think about the year, the holidays throughout the year, they all have a theme, because that's why we have holidays, folks. They were created for these themes. So, for example, a Thanksgiving holiday, no matter what country you're in, no matter what culture, that would be about gratitude. The December holidays, December, really, the November, December holidays, those can be about generosity and giving.
Yeah.
And we can teach children about generosity and giving. And I know a lot of you do that. You'll do things like have these things where you can buy gifts, giving trees.
Yeah, the giving trees.
You can buy gifts for other people, but really, actually, the people who are doing that are their families in early childhood. If we're talking about let's participate in the giving tree, it's the parents buying something
that went and bought.
Right. So how can we teach young children to give to each other within a program or a school? That's a different question. Or give to other people as the young children that they are. What can they make? What can you send? I think about the cards for the nursing homes and all that stuff. Can't we just focus on giving at that time of year? January in the United States, we have Martin Luther King Jr. Teach the children about kindness and respect and valuing the differences between each other.
Yes.
And I think that that's a lesson that children can understand, and you can connect it to Dr. King. How about it? Connect it to what Dr. King taught and focus on the lesson.
Yeah. That holiday, when I was teaching kindergarten last year, we did this whole thing of like, how do you enact change if you want something to change? And we talked about how he started by writing letters to his newspaper. And if you have a cause, and it doesn't matter what your cause is, if you have a cause, then you would write a letter first to somebody that can maybe enact that change. And that could be the start. And so my class would be like, well, what could we write about? And I'm like, well, what do you want to change in the school? Think about that. And then you would write a letter to the superintendent, you know, and that's how it gets started. You need to open up people's minds to this idea. And that's what we taught, that like they're older, they were in kindergarten. So like that, we were able to do that. But that's what I use Martin Luther King's holiday for, is you as a person can enact all this change in the world just by being you and by,
I love that.
yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it.
So like that holiday, like totally changed for me by teaching kindergarten that one year, you know, it's like, it's so much more.
It reminds me of election day, where we
Yeah.
should really be teaching children about the fact that they have a voice and they can vote.
Yes.
Right. And so we
Yes.
vote on all sorts of things in a classroom. That's what we do in early childhood. We'll vote on,
Yeah.
you know, what do you want to play with now? Or what do you want to, like, we teach them about voting rather than
Yeah.
taking a particular political stand with these young children. And I think we
Right.
kind of have to approach holidays in that way too. The spring holidays, you know, like April, like Easter, Passover, the other holidays around that, that's all about rebirth and rejuvenation and
Yes.
spring
and spring and starting
right?
anew. Yeah. Everything,
starting
you know,
anew, like
yeah.
rebirth.
Same with New Year's Day, I feel, is a rebirth. This is a new start. This is a good beginning. You could start something new. You can make a goal and have that be your goal for the year. And that's how you start. Like it's all about rebirth and renewal, you know, everything's new again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think when we really think about these holidays in a deeper way than let's create a craft, something to wear and put on a show, we realize that there are really important social emotional lessons that need to be taught to kids. And I do think that a lot of our listeners do that to some extent. And what I'm saying is shed the other stuff that, come on, you kind of know it's not right, and do this instead. Even in December, we've talked about not doing the holiday show. Alison and I have talked about this, and doing other things instead, like some sort of celebration or multicultural event, or you know, replacing it. It definitely, I know a lot of places that replace it with a multicultural event that families participate in, and just some sort of event where families can be invited and celebrate the end of a year before the new one before starts, January 1st comes. There are people, I work with programs that have focus an event on the end of the calendar year rather than a holiday show, and they do that sort of party or celebration with the families. You know, there are so many things that we can do instead. And I think what people have tried to do, instead of doing things instead, what they've done is try to jam it all in. We're going to do it all. We're still going to do all the old stuff to satisfy people instead of educate people about why we're changing and do it all. But I don't think you can do it all effectively. You've got to pick a winner here. You can't. And I feel like there's still a lot of people who want all these traditional things too, you know, like, and then you get that pushback at home, folks. Do it at home. Yeah, but like you should see what happens when you try to eliminate an event at a school that's been there for decades, you know, because that happened, you know, that happened at my school, and then they had to bring it all back at the very last minute because too many people complained. And it's like, but this is not. It was not a culture neutral event, you know, and there's so many people that are holding on to all these. Do you know, but do you know things that they did when they were kids? Yeah. Do you know how many times people will say to me, you know, we're doing XYZ, and it doesn't necessarily have to be about holidays. We're doing XYZ because the families say we need to. Yeah. Well, you know what? Sometimes we have information and research that the families are not aware of, and sometimes we have to say no. Like, for example, we will not force feed children like that. And I've had families come and say, I want you to make sure that my child eats. My child is to be fed. And we're like, we don't force feed children. I've had people say, I don't want my child going outside. And we've looked at them and said, well, if your child is healthy enough to be in our program or in our school, then your child has to go outside for physical activity. So if you're saying that your child isn't healthy enough, then your child needs to go home. You know, like, we will stand for some things. And then there are other things where we go, we say to ourselves, well, that's not where I'm going to stand. That's not as important. But I'm going to submit to you that being sensitive, culturally sensitive and responsive about holidays is as important as we will not force feed. Your child does need to go out. If your child isn't healthy enough to go out, then your child isn't healthy enough to be in school. It's as important, folks. And I'm not sure why we aren't willing to stand for that. Like we are all the other things that are so important for children.
Sometimes it's not the teacher. Sometimes it's the higher ups.
I know.
But
again, you talked about change. How do you enact change?
I know. How do you enact change? This is how
Folks,
you do it.
how
You
do
have
you
to take a
enact
stand
change?
somewhere. Yeah.
You got to take a stand. You have to advocate. You have to get enough people on your side. You've got to talk to families. You have to advocate for this. You have to prove that the silent majority isn't going to be so silent anymore.
Yeah.
There was something else when I was going off on that tangent a second ago that I was going to say. And now I lost it because age and stuff.
I had that before we started though. I was like, yeah, I just lost my thought. We weren't recording yet. So I just hit it.
I think that we have to remember, I know what I was going to say. I was talking about if the families insist on something. I've also had people say to me, but the children really enjoy it. And especially in the realm of things like worksheets or crafts, which we know they really shouldn't be doing, but the children really enjoy it. And my response to that is always this: my children really enjoyed junk food. I didn't let them eat it. I don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes we know what's healthier for people, folks. And sometimes we know what's mentally healthier for people than the children and the families do.
And honestly, are they really enjoying it? Children will they enjoy almost anything that you present to them. They'll find fun in anything. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, cool. My teacher gave me this sheet. Yeah. Cool. I'll do it. They just think it's all fun. But there's different ways to do it that they would also enjoy. You know what I mean? So like it's
more meaningful ways.
And
I think there's more meaningful ways to do holidays than how we have done them in the past. It's kind of like how schools now are going to doing project-based learning instead of themes. Themes were a surface, cursory look at topics that were not brought in a way that was hands-on and meaningful for children. And I think the same for holidays. Holidays were done in a surface, cursory way that was not sensitive to the people in our world and who the children may encounter or who may actually be sitting in front of you in that classroom. Right? There are families that don't do any of these holidays, but I suspect that they would be okay with a lesson about gratitude and generosity and kindness and standing for yourself. And I think they would be okay with all that. So how do we include those families who say we don't do any holidays? By doing the overall good social emotional lesson.
Right. Because in the end, what would you rather your child know? Inaccurate facts about the Mayflower or
what are you saying? I've seen the Mayflower in Massachusetts. I dragged my kids to Plymouth Rock.
There's a whole story there of inaccuracy though also.
But
would you rather would you rather your child know that or how to be a generous, thankful well, Cindy's kids all know about that. But like still, my point is, wouldn't you rather your child know more about generosity and thankfulness and kindness and gratitude and all that stuff that will last their whole lifetime? You know what I mean? Rather than the facts of these holidays that may or may not be true.
And I just want to do a disclaimer again. We didn't say don't mention the name of the holiday. People are going to write to us and say, why are you canceling holidays? I'm not canceling holidays.
The holiday.
I'm saying acknowledge the holidays. Talk about them. Have the family come in and talk about their family traditions. Read books about them. But when you're going to do lessons, focus it on the moral and social emotional lesson of the holiday, please, rather than
making
details you don't know or fake history. So
we
didn't say cancel them. I can't
don't
even
cancel
say that
it
loud enough in this cancel culture.
I know. Don't cancel the holiday. Just do it differently. There you go.
Do it differently, please. Do it in a deeper,
in a meaningful way.
Meaningful, long-lasting lesson way. And we're just going to leave it there with our disclaimer that once again, we have not canceled anything. So preschool peeps, listen, we do have people writing to us and giving us really cool feedback. We need to have your permission though, to talk about it on the podcast. So if you've sent us anything and not given permission, please contact us again and say that thing I sent was about this, and you can say it.
Yeah, because we get some really awesome suggestions that we would love to share with other people, but we don't want to use your name without
unless we know we
permission.
can.
So yeah,
so please do that, and we will catch you next time on the podcast where we won't cancel anything either. Bye, peeps.